Hey everybody, welcome to another week of online service. So one question that I'm getting quite a bit is, what exactly does ministry look like in the coronavirus season? So what I want you to do is look at your screen, and you are going to get a few ideas as far as what exactly we're doing behind the scenes. So first one is this: our young adult ministry, Our young adult ministry has just been really blessed by Daniel and Amy Roberts over the last few months, and just a few weeks ago they did a online talent show. And you can see these pictures on the screen here. You got Lucas and you got Ben, and the one I want to highlight for a minute is on the left side of the screen. Her name is Emily Gonzalez. She dressed up like Abraham Lincoln and rapped the Gettysburg Address. That is right, my friends. She rapped the entire Gettysburg Address, and in what is likely the biggest ministry mistake of the year, this was not recorded, which I was very, very sad about. But Daniel and Amy have been doing a great job. If you go to this next slide, you'll see that young adults have been doing lots of great things, decorating the trail. Daniel's had a weekly interview where he's been putting people online, talking to them. Amy has a really, really effective page for women called the Company of Women on Facebook that's got a lot of traffic. They've been doing a lot of Zoom. Let's go on to our children's ministry. So our children's ministry, they've had a lot going on. They've been sending out cards, and if you haven't been tuning in on Wednesdays, they've been knocking it out of the park. And my family's been particularly blessed. We're with you guys every single week, hearing those Bible lessons, and they've been a big, big blessing to us. Clay Hart and the International Ministry, they've been doing a lot as well. There's actually quite a few pictures that Clay sent me that we couldn't show for a variety of reasons, but here's one. This is a worldwide pandemic, and Clay and his team are doing a really good job connecting with people all over the world and trying to keep people sane. Our care and counseling ministry has actually been doing a whole lot. You know, there's a lot of anxiety right now, and so our counselors have been working really, really hard. And so obviously we can't show you those pictures, but there's been a lot going on there. And we've actually had our merge class, which helps people as they get ready to get married. That has been meeting, and that has gone really, really well on Wednesdays. And then our campus ministries also just been firing on all cylinders. Campus students are some of the population that I think has been affected most by the virus. Many of them have been looking forward to things like graduation, and for many of them, their entire social world was just dismantled. And so Hudson and Jay and Rachel and so many others have really been doing a good job just with Zoom and discipleship groups and Bible studies and one-on-one deals, and they've been doing a great job. Youth ministry, this is a great photo. Doesn't this just make you want to be in their youth group? The whole team has just been going at it, trying to bless our teenagers. So you'll see this next slide. They've been doing all sorts of Zoom meetings and going on parades. And then if you go to the next slide, they actually they mobilized their leadership team to get Cokes to every teen in the youth group. So around 300 people got Cokes with this effort, and a lot of happy faces there. Our prison ministry has tried to, in a sense, reinvent itself, because our prison ministry has a lot of volunteers, and for a lot of those volunteers, they've had to stay at home and shelter at home. So we've really had to rethink how these lessons get graded, and so there's been new volunteers, and Jerry and his team have been doing a great job. This picture here is of Tasha and Jill, who have also been doing a great job as well. And one more I'll show you, obviously last but not least, but every week when we sing these songs and hear just great communion thoughts like we just heard from Philip, that's all planned out. And this is the dream team of worship. They meet pretty much every week. Scott, Christy, Stephanie, and Philip, and they put a lot of thought and a lot of prayer into planning our worship services. So there's obviously a lot more going on, but I just wanted you to have a little snapshot of what exactly is going on in a given week of ministry at Memorial Road. So when I was a kid, I, like many little boys, I loved birthdays. Like big time loved them. Like if you'd asked me for a birthday list, I could give that to you like any time of the year, and that list was going to be pretty stinking long. Like I knew exactly what I wanted. I love birthdays. One of my most unique early birthday memories, 5th grade, I'm supposed to go with 2 or 3 friends to go see a movie, and the day before we go, in my class, I stand up and say, hey, my birthday's tomorrow and we're going to see a movie. Everybody's invited. Now, there's two problems with this. One, I didn't tell my parents. And two, everybody showed up. So, sorry, Mom and Dad, I still feel bad about that one. It was highly stressful for my parents. But that's just the kind of kid I was. I loved birthdays. But let me tell you the thing I didn't like about birthdays. And let me just say, kids, if you're tuning in right now, if you're not acclimated to what an amen is, this might be your first amen here. When you say amen, it just means you agree with somebody. So I'm going to tell you what I don't like about birthdays, and then if you agree with me, you can say amen. I didn't like thank you notes. In fact, I hated thank you notes. In my little boy mind, I thought, well, what's the point? My buddies don't need thank you notes. They're not going to care about thank you notes. They're going to throw them away. Plus, after you write like 2 or 3, your hand starts to cramp a little bit. It's not good. And then the thing that really bothered me is after you're done writing the note, it wasn't over. You had to get a stamp, and you actually had to write the address on the envelope. It was so annoying. So kids, or anybody else, just say amen if anybody relates to what I'm talking about right now. Now, obviously, I've grown up, and to be honest, I don't despise thank you notes anymore. I write a lot more thank you notes than I used to, but they're still not my favorite thing. In fact, I would say thank you notes, I would describe them as the baked beans of spiritual virtues. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. I like baked beans. If you give me baked beans, I'm going to eat baked beans. I like them. But I can go like a month and have no baked beans, and I'm just fine with that. Well, that's kind of how I feel about gratitude. I know it's important. I know it's a big deal. But I can go quite a while without practicing gratitude, and I feel like I'm okay. Now, I know some of you are like, I can't believe he's saying this. It's my preacher. This is ridiculous. He's not a grateful person. I'm just being honest with you. And for those of you like this is supernatural, praise God for you. I respect you. I admire you. But you need to know there's a lot of people like me. We call ourselves the gratitude challenged people. Like some of you have done this. You've set out to your week and you're writing your to-do list. And you think, I'm going to be a good Christian this week. I'm going to write thank you cards. Where does thank you cards go on your to-do list? At the bottom. Like nobody puts that at the top. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do my lawn. I'm going to clean the kitchen. I'm going to, make all these meals. I'm going to watch 8 hours of Netflix. I'm going to play solitaire. Oh, and then, I guess I'll get around to thank you notes. It's just not a priority for a lot of people. Now, here's what I want to do for a few minutes as we continue this series called Surprising Jesus. I want to push back. I want to push back a little against my own thinking here. And if you're tracking with me so far, I want to push back against your thinking. I want to try to change your attitude about gratitude. So, Luke chapter 17, we're going to hop into a story here. It's a familiar story. This is what we read in verse 11. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. Leprosy is this contagious skin disease. You get rashes everywhere. You get bumps all over your body. You had to walk around yelling unclean, unclean, because you weren't allowed to be around anybody else because it was contagious. Now, I went back and reread Leviticus 13, which tells us all about the leprosy logistics and all the parameters and rules and stuff like this. I found a verse that I'm totally rethinking the way I read this in light of the coronavirus. So this is Leviticus 13, verse 45. Anyone with such a defiling disease must, number 1, let their hair be unkempt. Number 2, cover the lower part of their face. And number 3, they must live alone. Isn't that great? There's just so much in the Bible. When you just read the Bible through a coronavirus lens, verses just start popping off the page. We are not the first ones to be in quarantine. So these lepers, they're lonely, they're sick, they're starved for human connection, and so they see Jesus, and here's what they say, verse 12 and 13. They stood at a distance, and they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. When he saw them, he said, go, show yourself to the priest. Now here's what's going on there. When people got cured of leprosy in the Old Testament, they had this pretty long list of protocols to go through so that they could re-enter society. And it's a really strange list. It's all in Leviticus 14, but I'll summarize here. They had to sacrifice a bird. They had to take some of the blood from the bird, put it on their right toe, big toe, their right thumb, and then their right earlobe. And then they had to shave their entire body, including their eyebrows. So, thank the Lord for modern medicine. But that's Leviticus 14. That's what you do if you get leprosy. So here's what happens. That's what they're doing. They're going on to the priest. That's how you start this process, is you go see the priest. So here's what happens next. As they went, they were cleansed. Now, the story could actually end here. It'd be a pretty good story. This is a great story about the unconditional grace of Jesus who comes down on these people and heals them, not because of anything they've done, but because of his own mercy. That's a good story. But it doesn't end there. Here's the next part. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to praise God except this foreigner?" And then he said to him, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." Okay. There's 2 really important words in this story. The first word is this. You pronounce it katharizo. Everybody say katharizo. And in the Greek it means cleansed, and it specifically means cleansed from physical ailments. And the word is used in this story to describe the moment when all 10 people were cleansed. And so this word is pretty much every time in the Gospels it refers to physical skin healing. So Jesus refers to Naaman in Luke 4. He uses this word. Naaman was cleansed from his sickness. Matthew 10, Jesus sends out the disciples to go heal people, and it says the disciples have the ability to cleanse people from skin diseases. So katharizo always has to do with skin diseases. Well, there's a second word in this story that's important, and it's the word sozo. Everybody say sozo. This is the word that means save, and it's where we get our word salvation. So this is a big word, and it has a broad range of meanings. It can mean save, it can mean healing, and it's found all over the New Testament. So Mark 16, whoever believes in Jesus and is baptized will be saved. That's the word sozo. Luke 19, where Jesus says, "The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." That's the word sozo. Acts 16, when the centurion or the prison guard, he asks, "What must I do to be sozo? What must I do to be saved?" That's that same word. The woman that comes and touches Jesus' cloak, it says that she's healed or she's saved. That's that word sozo. And so this word, it's a really broad word. It means like total healing, absolute, unequivocal, complete wellness, wholeness. You are rescued from every kind of darkness that could be in your heart. So this is physical, spiritual, emotional, mental. This is a big word. Now, here's what's really interesting about the story. All 10 lepers experienced katharizo, this cleansing. The bumps on their skin were gone, the rash was cleared, but only one of them experienced sozo. And what was the distinguishing mark between that guy and the rest of the people? It was gratitude. Isn't that interesting? That everybody got cleansed, but only one person was said to have got fully well. And it's the last word in there where Jesus says, "Your faith has made you well." Your faith has made you sozo. And again, the one distinguishing factor is gratitude. So I got a lesson to learn. I think gratitude's a little more than baked beans. Like there's something going on with gratitude. And let me even clarify further what I think is the true thing that surprised Jesus here. I don't think it's just generic gratitude. Because don't you think that all 9 of the other guys were actually thankful? And who wouldn't be thankful? You have leprosy and the leprosy's gone. Of course you're going to be grateful. So what was it about this guy? It wasn't that he was grateful, it's that he expressed his gratitude. You see, expressed gratitude is actually a lot different than regular gratitude because expressed gratitude, it comes at a cost. For me as a kid writing thank you cards, it was the cost of my hand cramping. For this guy in the story, there was quite a bit of cost here. There was a social cost. He had to turn away from his friends and say, "Guys, I'm going to go back and thank Jesus." Well, that's a little weird to be going in one direction and then to totally leave. There would have been some social awkwardness there. There's a physical cost. The guy's got to walk further. There's a family emotional cost. The guy delays his reunion with the people that he loves. So there is a cost in expressed gratitude. But this guy, he somehow reasons within himself, okay, I know this is going to cost me something, but I still got to go back. I've got to tell Jesus that I am thank you for what he did for me. And what happened is this guy experienced sozo. This holistic, complete renewal from within. And he got to have an encounter with Jesus that nobody else had. So here's the big takeaway for you this morning on this lesson. Expressed gratitude unlocks the most complete version of yourself. The best you is the thankful you. And so gratitude here it's super important. In fact, I want to give you an image to illustrate what I'm talking about here. Bear with me just one moment. All right, this candle, if you can see it, it's going to represent you and your life, and that little light is going to be you and your light shining. And this cup is going to be what I'm going to call the funk, and that's what I call it. And when I say the funk, I just mean I have seasons in my life where it's just like I'm not in a good mood, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm scared. I just don't feel like me. I just kind of feel like I'm in a funk. For me, it actually feels like, metaphorically, a cloud kind of descends over me, and I'm just like, ugh, I just don't feel good about life. So I want you to think about the last time you were in a funk. So it might be a month ago, might be a week ago, might be a year ago. Maybe you're feeling like you're in a funk right now. What happens when you're in a funk, if you can still see this candle, is it just sucks the life out of you. Kind of sucks the light out of you. Now, this is what I would call, this is how we are when we're not practicing gratitude. But I want to give you a different image here. I can bring this over here without setting the church on fire. All right, different image here. This is a bowl. It's got a bunch of candles in it. This is a good picture of what gratitude actually does. So first of all, I want to talk through this a little bit. I think the first thing gratitude does is it removes the wall of the funk. Because the funk's all about you. You're just kind of stuck in a rut. All you can think about is yourself. Let's see if I can get that in there. That's what you think about when you're in a funk. It's all about me. But when you get out of the funk, notice, first thing to notice here is this is really open. So this is closed. But there's openness here. And so when you're practicing gratitude, you're in a posture of receptivity. It's really hard to receive anything from God when you're in a funk. But when you decide to be grateful, you open yourself up to the blessings of God. That's the first difference I want you to notice. But secondly, if you'll also notice, there's multiple candles in here. So when you practice gratitude, especially expressed gratitude, what you're really doing is you're connecting yourself to other people. Like that's what gratitude does. When you're grateful, like you're pulling people into your life. I'm really grateful that you brought me this meal. I'm really grateful that you gave me that encouraging phone call. You're connecting with other people and you're connecting with God. What are the greatest two commands? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, gratitude, it's the greatest way to connect to the greatest commands. When you're grateful, you're opening yourself up and you're putting yourself in relationship with other people. So gratitude, it's the great connector. So here's a third difference, though, between the cup and the funk and the bowl. So first, we got it's open. Second, we got you're connected. And third, I think this is the most important one. If you'll notice in the bowl, you are not in the middle. You're not in the center. And unlike the TV show in the 90s with Mr. Malcolm, you were not made to be in the middle. You were actually made to be in orbit. Like you were designed to go around something else. And so isn't it amazing that sometimes in the worst seasons of life, we are the center of our own universe? Have you ever thought about this, how self-centered fear is? Fear is all about self-protection. Fear is all about self-preservation. Everything about fear and anxiety is all about self. I mean, think about this. What exactly are you afraid of? I loved Philip's list he gave us earlier. What are you afraid of? It's things that affect you. It's your health, it's your school, it's your money, it's your friendship situation, your family drama. You're afraid of things that affect you. You're not afraid of things that affect me. You don't carry my fears. And I don't carry your fears. That's because fear innately is about the self. And so this is why gratitude is so important, because it's so important. It's really hard to think, why me, when I'm saying thank you. Like when I'm saying thank you, I'm focused on you, focused on your life. When I say thank you, I'm acknowledging that you did something for me that I did not do for myself, or maybe I could not do for myself. See, why me? It's really easy to think why me when you're self-centered, but man, when you're saying thank you, it's really hard to think why me. Now, I want to give you one more line here, and this is kind of a mouthful, but it's a good takeaway line. Maybe you can remember it this week. Self-absorption is the opposite of self-actualization. Okay, what exactly does that mean? Okay, what's self-actualization? First of all, it's very difficult to pronounce. I had to practice saying actualization many times. So what's self-actualization? Self-actualization is the best version of you. It's the you that's like overflowing with compassion and perspective. Like, it's the you that you're not bothered when bad things happen. You just roll with it. You know what you're supposed to do. You're calm. People want to be around you. Like, you're a magnet for others. You just embody the love of God. That's the best version of you. And here's the deal. You can't be the best version of you when you're thinking about you. You just can't. And so what gratitude does, and especially expressed gratitude, is it unlocks that version of you. Again, going back to the story, everybody got cleansed. Everybody got the leprosy gone, but only one guy had this holistic healing and saving, and it was the guy who came back at a cost and said, I just have to say thank you. So I read a book several years ago. It was a really good book. I would highly encourage anybody to read this book. It's called Power of Moments. And one of the most memorable parts of this book is that it tells a story about this psychologist named Martin Seligman. And Martin Seligman not pioneered, but he really developed a branch of psychology that's not really focused on alleviating suffering. It's focused on amplifying well-being. And so what Seligman spent his whole career doing is trying to find ways for people to really boost their well-being and their joy. Like, what kinds of practices can we do that just bring us into a really joyful space? So he spent his whole career coming up with different kinds of practices. This is the number one practice over his whole career that produced scientifically the best results when it comes to sustained joy. He called it a gratitude visit. And here's what it is. It's actually pretty simple. You write a letter to someone that's influenced you, that's still living, and then you deliver the letter to that person and read it to them in person. And so Seligman used to assign this task to various students at the college that he taught at, and this became the favorite experience of most college students. In fact, in the book, it prints the letter of one college student, and it's not like the letter has anything profound. It's what you would expect. The college student goes home on spring break, writes a thank you letter to his mom, and it's just all this, I love you, Mom, you're amazing, I wouldn't be who I am without you. You know, it's what you would expect. But he reads this letter to his mother, and they are both just weeping. And then later, the college student, he said, in my whole college career, that experience made it into my top 3. It was, in no particular order, it was graduation, going to the national championship football game, and writing this thank you letter and reading it to my mom. Now, that's pretty impressive. And I think what Seligman's figured out is he has discovered something that we already know in the Bible. He's discovered that when you express your gratitude to other people, you become the very best version of you. So in my family, every family has like iconic or defining stories. Like, so in my extended family, this happened, and this has become this rock of a story for everybody in my family. I told the story 7 years ago, but it fits so well with this sermon. I'm going to tell it again today. 1960. My grandpa, Ferris Brookman, he's superintendent out in western Oklahoma, and the school year's about to start, and he's at this board meeting with these other school officials, and one of the agenda items on the meeting is this boy named Hubert. Hubert's 17, 18 years old. He's had a horrible life. He's been kicked out of his home from his parents, didn't work out with his grandparents. He has nowhere to live. Nobody wants him. He's been in trouble with the law. He's a total troublemaker. And so at this meeting, they bring him up, and people are talking, what are we going to do with Hubert? Nobody says anything. And so my grandpa says, well, he can stay with me for a year. Let's let the kid graduate. So Hubert goes in and lives with Ferris and Betty Brookman, and my dad and my aunt are both kids at the time. And to make a long story short, Hubert was basically a complete jerk for a year. My grandparents provided him everything he needed, shelter, food, clothes, all that, and he was just rude, he was aloof, he was ungrateful, he didn't participate in family activities, he just wasn't very pleasant to be around. But my grandparents kept thinking, okay, we're just going to get through this year, and surely he'll know how much we did for him at the end. Well, at the end of the year, he graduates, walks out the front door, never to be seen again. He never said thank you. This really bothered my grandparents for a long time. They told us this story. It bothered us too. Like, how could you do that? How could you receive all those blessings for a year and not even say thank you? So fast forward 50 years. This is just a few years ago. This black SUV pulls up on the driveway of my grandparents, and this old man gets out. He walks up to the front door and he knocks. My granddad answers. And the guy says, my name is Hubert. I don't know if you remember me, but I've been looking for you for quite a while. And I know that it's been 50 years that I had to find you to come back and tell you, thank you. And I want to ask for your forgiveness. And so you've got these two old men, and they've both got just tears pooling in their eyes. And my grandpa immediately says, oh, I forgave you a long time ago. And he invites Hubert in, and these two guys have one of the greatest reunions that you could possibly have. And so Hubert ended up dying just a few months later. He had contracted Agent Orange in Vietnam. But I'm telling you, that guy died a free man because he didn't have any gratitude regrets. And so that's the big thing I'm trying to get through to you this morning and myself is like, don't live your life with any gratitude regrets. Like, who is somebody in your life that's done something for you, but you just haven't taken the time to really go to that person and say, no, really, you've got to know this. You've got to know how grateful I am for you. I'm telling you, if you will practice this, if you will do this, you'll be like that leper who didn't just get cleansed, but he got sozo. There was this total well-being that came over him when he said, thank you. And so you're about to see our weekly challenge video from Andy, who's been doing such a good job with those. And he's going to give you two challenges. And one of the challenges is the one from the book. You write a letter to somebody that's influenced you, and you go read that letter to that person. I highly encourage you to do that this week. We love you so much. As always, you're welcome to call the number on the screen during the next song, and any of us ministers will be happy to talk to you if you need anything. But please know we love you and we care about you, and the Lord bless you this week.
Hey there, Memorial Road, and anyone else who is watching. You may remember just a few weeks ago when Phil challenged us to do one small thing for somebody in our lives. That week, I got a knock on the door late at night. I ran out to see who was there. Nobody was there. They had run off, but they'd left a big bag of Taco Bell on my porch. It was a glorious moment. I didn't know at the time who had done that, but I have since found out that it was Kendall and Logan Mays, good friends of mine. And so since this week's challenge is all about expressing gratitude, I wanted to find a good way to do that. So I am finishing up a thank you sign that they can see from a little ways off so that we can be socially distant. I kind of misjudged the lettering size a little bit on my first pass, but I think this one is going to work quite a bit better. So I am on my way. I've got my sign ready to go. In the back, I've got my mask. So I feel like I am fully prepared. I am excited for them to see me, ready to do this. so much. Okay, so let's get to this week's challenge. There's actually 2 challenges again this week. The first one we're calling a gratitude visit. Here's how it works. Identify someone in your life who is still living, who's had a positive influence on you. Write a heartfelt letter of gratitude to that person, and then find an appropriate way to read your letter to that person. It might be online, it might be face-to-face. The second challenge we're calling Share a Story in a Sentence. It's been really great to hear from so many of you week in and week out during this quarantine, so we want to give you the chance to do that again this week. Here's how it works. Just send us a very short video of yourself saying thank you to somebody who did something to bless you recently or did something to bless somebody else. Send those videos to me at andy.lashley@mrcc.org. If there are pictures or video that go along with that story, send those to me as well. So for instance, some friends of mine left Taco Bell on my porch. Thank you so much, Kendall and Logan Mays. And Taco Bell, obviously. We really miss all of you. I hope you're doing well. If there's anything at all that we can be doing for you, please don't hesitate to let us know. Have a great week. Take care.